starts patting him down. Officer Snelson carefully fishes out a wad of cash from Hollis Daniels' pocket. Meanwhile, Officer East keeps a watchful eye from a safe distance, ensuring everything goes down by the book. From the shaky tone of Daniels' voice, it's clear he's rattled. He hesitates when the officer asks about weapons and stumbles over his words when questioned about searching his pockets. Daniels even tries to play the "I do not consent" card, but Officer Snelson presses on, unfazed. As the routine search continues, Officer Snelson's body cam captures the moment when he finds a prescription pill bottle tucked away on Daniels' person. It's another piece of the puzzle falling into place.
What kind of pills you got in that bottle?
This is my prescription. I have antidepressant Prozac.
Prozac?
Yes, sir.
And you don't, then this is what you don't want me to pull out of your pants and then
Oh, no, you can.
I can take that pill bottle out?
It's just my Prozac.
The body camera lens gets a bit obscured by Daniels' clothing during this part of the search. But according to the report, the officers are doing a thorough job, focusing on Daniels' waistline, pants pockets, and pant legs. Every nook and cranny is getting checked out.
You understand my skepticism when you say,
Of course.
I can empty that pocket, and I can empty part of this pocket, and so what's your real name then?
Hollis Allen James Daniels today.
Why'd you give us a fake name?
Okay, because I don't know what's going on.
Officer East stands firm in the doorway, keeping a close eye on Daniels. East even instructs the 19-year-old to face forward repeatedly, a standard safety precaution in such situations. After uncovering the cash and pill bottle in Daniels' pockets, Officer Snelson allows him to take a seat back on the couch. Officer East then steps in, initiating a conversation with Daniels about the alleged indoor firing incident from earlier.
Today we came by, we had an order of marijuana coming from this room. Had an order of marijuana coming from this room.
6:45.
Marijuana.
Blocked it, so we left. Then we also got a report of a gunshot.
43, that subject that we flagged the
That's what we
ID
got
for
reported. So
came by the
we came
room
in
while
here,
we were
make sure
processing
everyone's
it.
okay.
6:35,
Check.
speaking
Oh,
with
yeah.
you now.
Yeah.
So what happened last night?
There was no gunshot. In here?
That's what we're told.
By who?
Somebody that heard it.
So yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, I didn't. No, yeah. I wasn't even here last night. I was over at my buddy, 28th Street. In fact, I got pulled over last night on the way back from 28th Street.
The officers can tell he's not being entirely truthful, and when Hollis Daniels senses it too, he decides to come clean about him being pulled over by the Lubbock police the night before. Daniels wonders if there's anything else he should be sweating over. He's likely caught on that the cops have already turned his room inside out.
Is there anything else that
Also with the welfare check, we came into the room
is that?
and there's all sorts of drug paraphernalia everywhere.
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and pull that for you.
Okay. So, okay.
Also, you have pills, prescription bottle that doesn't belong to you.
Okay.
Fuck that up.
Can you explain that?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's a Miranda.
What's up?
He's just gonna read you your rights before we ask any more questions, okay?
This is just about the pot then, huh?
Yeah, he'll get to all that. Just because he's reading you this doesn't mean you're under arrest. It's just we want you to be aware of your rights before you answer any more questions.
So, am I getting a ticket or am I getting arrested?
No, this doesn't mean you're getting arrested. He's just gonna interview you.
But it did.
So what's going on with all the stuff in your room?
I smoke pot sometimes, he said, and I have a few pills in there, he said.
After Officer East confronts Daniels about the pills and prescription bottle not issued in his name, he reads his Miranda rights. Officer Snelson's body cam captures Daniels sitting on the couch, visibly uneasy. It's crystal clear that he's aware he's in some legal hot water now. Daniels then asks if he's getting a ticket or if he's under arrest. Officer Snelson's response is a bit cryptic, stating they need to ask a few more questions first.
Yeah, he'll get to all that. Just because he's reading you this doesn't mean you're under arrest. It's just we want you to be aware of your rights before you answer any more questions.
So, am I getting a ticket or am I getting arrested?
No, this doesn't mean you're getting arrested. He's just gonna interview you.
Officer East presses Daniels once again about the contraband found in his room. Daniels tries to downplay the situation, claiming he only smokes weed occasionally and had just a few pills on him. But to a cop's eyes, Those loose Xanax pills spell trouble. Depending on the quantity, it could easily land him with a felony drug charge, especially in Texas. At this critical moment, Daniels should have clammed up. But instead, he sticks his foot in his mouth, answering Officer Snelson's next question.
So you don't have a prescription for Xanax? Because that's a lot of Xanax for one person.
Well, I'm not distributing it or anything.
Hollis Daniels, right there on camera, spills the beans about having those illegal substances. He tries to save face by saying he's just using the drugs for personal use, not selling them. But it's not much of a lifeline.
Well, what do you use the CO2 gun for?
Honestly, I haven't even loaded it since I got here. Back home, we used to just shoot squirrels and stuff. I thought it'd be kind of fun.
All right, Sean. Hey! Redeem chair time.
Plus, it's probably not good having to go to campus like that.
Well, it's just, you know, it kind of
looks like...
Whenever we first went in, that was one of the first things we saw, and it's kind of like, with the information we had at the time, it's kind of like, you know...
Boys, are we taking tokes together, or what's up?
First sight. I mean, there's...
I also just got a controller tonight, thank God. My brother, the best man I know, got me a ruler.
But, you know, most of the time it's kind of in a drawer or something.
That long barrel revolver the officer stumbled upon on Daniels' bookshelf. It's actually a harmless CO2-powered pellet gun and not a full-on illegal firearm. Daniels then fires off another question, asking the officer about the legality of searching his room.
So y'all are legally allowed to unlock my room whenever there's a gunshot.
Yeah, if we're doing a check to make sure that, you know, for life purposes.
Right, of course, yeah.
Tomorrow, boys, we return to COD Zombies.
He tries to use the traffic
and we're
stop
getting
as an alibi,
163
arguing that he couldn't have possibly fired a gun in his dorm room
on 5.
because at the time
Tomorrow we're busting it around 100.
Police several blocks away.
So what time did the gunshot go off again?
Tomorrow we're busting it around 100.
Last night I was getting... What time did the shot go off? Because if you look up the police reports from Officer... What's his name? It was Duckworth. Officer Duckworth. We went through this whole thing.
Did he write you a ticket or anything?
He didn't write me a ticket. He let me go because the whole situation was... They thought that I stole their gun. And so then they fucking...
What God of War should you play? 2018. No hit. Get the game on Give Me God of War difficulty.
Whatever time the gunshot was reported won't.
That's my suggestion, and you better fucking do it.
Duckworth? With the Lubbock Police?
Don't have it.
Daniels
The fuck's the
claims he
matter
was
for
pulled over
you?
Because his pals had called the cops.
God of War
claiming
Ascension,
he'd
no hit.
stolen one of their guns from a nearby house just hours before. To the officers, it feels like an incredibly specific and, frankly, too coincidental detail considering the circumstances. Tech police won't piece it all together until later down the line when it's too little, too late. Daniel's story and the timeline he's spinning just don't quite mesh. Sure, he was
My
pulled
brother
over by the police
got this
around
fire
1
ass
a.m.
shirt
on
too,
Monday,
man. That looks
October
so
9th,
nice on him.
just like he claims. But his roommates reported the gunshot closer to 2 a.m., about an hour later.
Go ahead and stand up.
My arrest.
You better fucking do it. You're the best God of War player I know.
With that subject for possession of controlled substance.
Damn, how long is that? What's the bond and stuff, you know?
I don't know. We'll have to. It all depends on the weight and how much of the pills there are to kind of determine the.
As Officer East puts the handcuffs on Daniels, the body camera captures Daniels reaching into his pants pocket with his hands behind his back. As he's led towards a squad car, Daniels asks if he can tie his shoe while they're still in the hallway. The officer denies Daniels' request, explaining that it's not a long walk. They keep walking until they reach a police cruiser parked outside.
Can I tie my shoe, sir?
You like dress shirts? Yep.
Right there. All right, go ahead and have a seat. Yes, sir.
I do. I'm just like a
Daniels is told
slob.
that he'll be taken to the university's police station first before being transported and booked into the county jail.
It'll be a short ride. I'm gonna take you to Texas Tech.
You know though, like people judge you so much on appearance, it's crazy.
What seemed like
You're
a
just like a
routine arrest
slob
of
and
a
shit like
college
that.
student
People pay
caught
no
with illegal
mind. Put on a
drugs was
suit
about
or
to
nice
get
clothes, all of
really
a sudden
ugly.
everybody wants to be your friend and talk to you.
19-year-old Hollis Daniels
It's crazy,
arrived
the
at
perception
Texas
of
Tech
people,
police
bro.
station around 7:10 p.m. on Monday, October 9th, 2017. Given his relatively polite and compliant behavior with the police, up to this point, an officer informs Daniels that his handcuffs will be removed as they enter the building.
If you cooperate with me, we'll go ahead and pull these cuffs off in a little bit, okay?
Around 7:14 p.m., Officer East unlocks Daniels' restraints, and Daniels is led into a small briefing room. For a while, Officers Snelson and East, along with Daniels, are all in the room together. But soon, Officer Snelson heads back to his office. At 7:24 p.m., a security camera inside the briefing room captures Daniels alone and unsupervised. He's sitting in a chair, looking around, and slowly reaching toward his right pant leg. Later, Officer Floyd East Jr. re-enters the room and sits at a computer desk next to Daniels.
Oh yeah, he's gonna blow
Less
his
than
brains out.
half an hour later, as Officer East is entering Daniels' information into the database, a single gunshot echoes through the room at approximately 7:44 p.m. Officer Snelson hurries down the hallway and into the briefing room where Daniels was being processed. But as he turns the corner, he's met with a devastating sight. His partner, Officer East, slumped over in his chair. The suspect, 19-year-old Hollis Daniels, is nowhere in the room. Officer Snelson's radio
Do I have a
call
dress
dispatched
shirt?
reports
I'm the
an
slob
officer
I told
down
you.
and a
No, I
suspect
don't.
on the run.
I wish
He
I had nice
returned to
clothes
the
like
hallway,
that.
this time with his gun drawn. He scans
I
the
like
remaining
baseball
rooms
jerseys
of
and
the
stuff,
police
which are my
station,
preferred
frantically
kind of
searching
thing,
for
though.
Hollis Daniels.
Clear, I'm about to 25 with you at the end of the briefing hallway. I need you to help me clear this building.
I have two.
Snelson
Nice.
and another officer cautiously entered the men's bathroom, looking for Hollis Daniels. Authorities realize Daniels is gone. EMS arrives too late.
Officer Floyd East Jr. joined the Texas Tech Police Department in 2014, working as a guard at the Health Sciences Center in El Paso, while training to get his peace officer's license. He was a full-time police officer at the Lubbock campus for only 5 months before
I have dress pants
he was 48 years old and leaves behind a wife and 2
and
daughters.
dress shoes. Just
Officer
no like
Floyd
nice
East
dress
Jr.,
shirt.
age
I've had grown
48,
all my old ones, you know.
succumbs to the gunshot wound while sitting at the computer chair inside the Texas Tech University police station. Authorities had no clue where Hollis Daniels was. They also had no idea how he got the weapon used to kill Officer East. When Officer Snelson found Officer East's lifeless body, his firearm was still secured and holstered to his hip. What was missing was his police-issued body cam, which seemed to have been torn off his uniform. Additionally, a single .45 caliber shell was found near the victim's body. Units from state, local, and federal agencies were quickly dispatched as the hunt for 19-year-old Hollis Daniels began. Officer Snelson was later questioned by Lubbock police back at the Texas Tech station. The officer taking the report then asked Officer Snelson about the initial search of Hollis Daniels and if he had been thoroughly patted down before he was taken into custody. After a 90-minute manhunt, Hollis Daniels was finally spotted at 9:08 p.m., less than a mile away from where the shooting took place. He was spotted at the Citibank Coliseum. Daniels tried to make a run for it, but a Texas Tech police officer caught up to him and tackled him to the ground.
Homie is
As
in Texas.
Daniels
He's
was
lucky to be
arrested,
alive.
Officer East's partially damaged body camera was found nearby. A loaded .45 caliber handgun, believed to be the murder weapon, was also discovered in a drainage area close to the Texas Tech police station. While being taken into custody, Hollis Daniels reportedly made the following statement to one of the arresting officers. That friend was Floyd East Jr., born on August 14, 1969, to parents Gloria and Floyd Sr. He spent most of his adolescent years in El Paso, Texas. After graduating from Andrew High School in 1988, Floyd went on to earn his associate's degree in microcomputer technology in 2001. Years later, he entered the police academy before taking a job as a Texas Tech University police officer. Floyd was adventurous. He liked to surf and scuba dive. On land, he enjoyed rebuilding cars and was an expert carpenter. He was also a volunteer, regularly visiting sick children dying of cancer in the hospital. He is remembered as a family man who devoted his life to his wife Carmen and their 2 daughters, Anna and Monica. Hours after his life was tragically taken in the line of duty, the now confessed shooter, Hollis Daniels, was allowed to have his handcuffs removed once again. Not only that, he was allowed access to his personal cell phone, at which time he decided to call his sister just after 11 p.m. on the night of the murder.
I'm getting on the phone with a criminal defense attorney. I would really advise you not to say anything.
Yeah, on the cool, I haven't pretty solid proof against me, and is the problem.
I know that, Rich. And I know that you think that doesn't matter, but I'm telling you, it just, no.
You know me, Carrie, you know me. I'm not gonna say shit. I supported someone who assaulted me yesterday. I said, no, he didn't assault me.
This kid sounds like a fucking idiot.
Can I talk to Dad?
Yeah.
His sister advises him not to say anything more to the police without a lawyer. Hollis then asks if he can speak to their father.
Hey, Dad. I love you.
I love you too, son.
I'm just taking it easy right now. We're waiting for something to happen. I think they're gonna take me to county jail.
Daniel's father can be heard apologizing to his son for not being there and hoping he hasn't let him down. He reassures his son they'll face this together. During their conversation, Hollis Daniels seems disconnected from reality, mentioning he might get kicked out of Texas Tech for what he's done. The question of when and how Hollis Daniels obtained the firearm used to kill Officer East remained unanswered. The murder weapon was a .45 caliber handgun, the same type of gun that Daniels' friends had reported stolen 2 days before the murder. The police chief of Lubbock, Texas, Greg Stevens, defended his officers during a press conference regarding the traffic stop and the likely presence of the gun in Daniels' SUV at the time. But this doesn't clarify how Daniels managed to enter the Texas Tech police station with the weapon.
He just
underwent
didn't
a
pat him
search and
down
pat-down.
properly.
When Lubbock Police Chief Greg Stevens allowed
That's
questions,
simple.
this was the primary inquiry on the minds of local media outlets. These vague responses can be frustrating, but are necessary during the initial phases of a criminal investigation.
On October 9th, 2017, Daniels
Well,
recalled
I mean, it
that
was
he
just
walked into his
negligent.
dorm room and police officers were there.
Didn't do
He
his
had
job
the gun that
properly.
he'd stolen from his friend the night before in his
Didn't
waistband.
pat him down.
However, what the police chief didn't disclose at that time was that during the search at the dorm, the stolen .45 caliber handgun was concealed in Hollis Daniels' waistband.
He next remembered the first pat-down in his dorm room from Officer Snelson when the gun was still in his waistband.
As he was being frisked, the gun slipped and ended up in Daniels' crotch area. Each time Officer Snelson searched an area of the suspect's body, he narrowly missed contact with the gun. During the search, the weapon gradually slid further down Daniels' pants until it wedged at the bottom of his pant leg.
Daniel says, quote, "In my memory, my pants were sagging. He pulled my pants up and the gun fell into my crotch area." He says Officer Snelson kept missing it and that every time the officer touched a part of his leg, the gun kept moving even further down his leg.
This likely explains why he requested to tie his shoe on the way to the squad car. Somehow, Daniels managed to prevent the gun from falling out completely until he was seated in the back of the cruiser. Then, a thud was heard as the gun landed by Daniels' feet on the police car floor during the drive from the dorm to the campus police station.
On the car ride to the Texas Tech Police Department with Officer East after being arrested at Talkington Hall, Daniels remembers the thud sound of the gun falling in the back of the car. He says, quote, "I was looking for a place to hide it." He'd somehow managed to get the gun back up to his waistband, even in handcuffs.
Daniels manipulated his handcuffs enough to access the gun, which he then concealed in his shoe and right ankle. Upon arrival at the police station, Daniels was released from his restraints. At 7:44 p.m. on October 9th, 2017, he quietly retrieved the handgun from his right pant leg. While Chief Greg Stevens declined to comment on Texas Tech police policy regarding Daniels' release from handcuffs, he did acknowledge mistakes that were made, ultimately resulting in Officer Floyd East Jr.'s murder.
He was searched during his time in custody, but again, unfortunately, he was able to gain access to a weapon.
Hollis Daniels faced charges of capital murder in the shooting death of Officer Floyd East Jr. He was held on a $5 million bond as he was transferred to the LCK County Detention Center. As the trial progressed, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Each witness called to testify added another layer to the unfolding tragedy. The prosecution painted a vivid picture of Daniels' actions, presenting damning evidence of his guilt. Meanwhile, the defense sought to humanize the accused, shedding light on his troubled past.
One man who considered himself to be one of Daniel's best friends said he knew Daniel struggled with depression for years and that it had gotten progressively worse, especially the summer before Daniel's sophomore year in college. In fact, he testified that Daniels didn't want to return to Texas Tech, but didn't want to disappoint his parents.
The defense also shed light on his mental health struggles. Throughout the trial, the defense labored to humanize Hollis
I'm on the
Daniels,
PC this round.
depicting
Kind
him
of
as
like
a
it.
troubled soul battling inner
Well,
demons.
you're watching
Those who had known
me on the
Daniels the
PC?
longest testified that he was kind-hearted, inclusive, and funny.
They highlighted his privileged upbringing, emphasizing his family's status in their community.
The state, through cross-examination, reinforced that Daniels grew up in a loving family. He had all of his needs met.
Daniels' attorneys painted a picture of a young man grappling with mental health issues.
You normally watch on a
seeking
phone, right?
comfort in religion and the support of loved ones.
BRB, do you
Witnesses,
think, Johnny?
including friends and family members, testified to Daniel's struggles and the shock they experienced upon learning of his heinous crime.
One man who considered himself to be one of Daniels' best friends said he knew Daniels struggled with depression for years.
A former psychiatrist shed light on Daniel's psychological state, citing his depression and the influence of medication. Daniel's father took the stand, revealing his son's troubled past and the tragic loss that deeply affected him. Despite warning signs and professional advice, Daniels' parents insisted on his return to Texas Tech, unaware of the severity of his mental health decline. Their decision, tragically, led to devastating consequences.
There was a lack of
Not the
everyday
parents'
parental
fault.
control. Von Dwyer tells the jury about a man by the name of AC, who
Let's
was
go,
one of
Sean.
the family's employees that would end up moving in with the Daniels. AC and Daniels were very close, but the summer before he would go back to Tech for his sophomore year, AC got hit by a car on his bike and later died.
On the 11th day of the trial, Hollis Daniels took the stand, offering a glimpse into his troubled past. He
I have no
recounted a
sympathy for this
childhood
fucking guy.
marred by bullying and the influence of music glorifying drug use and rebellion. Daniels confessed to a downward spiral into substance abuse, fueled by a desire to escape reality and find comfort in the darkness. During his testimony, Daniels confessed to robbing someone at gunpoint for Xanax pills, intending to overdose and end his life. The courtroom watched in horror as the body cam footage captured the brutal murder. Daniels callously questioned him about his children. When asked why he asked about his children, Daniels claimed he believed mentioning Officer East's family would provide a comforting final thought. Officer East's grieving family
Damn,
members
that's
left the courtroom
crazy.
in tears hearing the remark. When questioned about why he killed Officer East, Daniels struggled to provide a rational explanation, stating, "Before stepping down, Daniels expressed a change of heart, no longer wishing to die, but recognizing the jury's role in determining his fate."
I think it's totally fair to say a life for a life. But then on the other hand, I think about my family, and the truth is I'm biased in my own favor. I don't want to die, not anymore.
After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict on February 24th, 2023.
Karen, after 20 hours of deliberating, the jury did deliver a sentence. They sentenced Hollis Daniels III to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
In the end, Hollis Daniels was spared from death but
Damn.
condemned to spend the
Lucky.
rest of his days behind bars in a state prison. During the victim impact statements, Floyd East Jr.'s sister addressed Daniels directly, looking him in the eye.
She looked Hollis Daniels directly in the eye and she said, "This is to you. You have the privilege to be anything in life you choose to be, but you chose to be a cop killer. Not only did you choose to take our brother's life, but Floyd was everybody's brother here, a kind, loving man, a man that treated you with respect, and in return, you showed him no mercy."
When asked if he had anything to say to the victim's family, Daniels simply replied, "No, not right now." He was sentenced to spend the remainder of his life behind bars in a Texas state penitentiary. Floyd East Jr.'s wife, Carmen, expressed gratitude for the community's support over the years and urged for peace and respect among individuals. She emphasized that guns are not the problem, but rather the lack of humanity and respect for each other.
I like this
Daniel's
woman.
defense attorney acknowledged the tragedy of the situation, recognizing that there were no winners.
Obviously, this case was a tragedy.
Yeah, there's definitely no winners in that fucking case. Kid's just stupid as shit. Literally dumb as a rock.
Sarah Ridgway and Mindy Sigg, two mothers on opposite sides of the same horrific crime, came face to face when both dialed 911. On a cold, snowy night of October 5th, 2012, Sarah Ridgway was first to call the police.
Westminster 911, what is the address of your emergency? Okay, what's going on there?
My daughter's missing. I guess she never made it to school this morning.
How old's your daughter?
She's 10.
Okay, what's your daughter's name?
Jessica Ridgway.
And when did you last see her?
This morning when she left at 8:30.
Did she walk?
Yeah. And I checked her friend's house that she walked and they're not answering the door.
And you said that the school called, so they weren't?
And I work nights, so I slept through the call.
Okay, Sarah, sorry about that. We've got several officers on the way over to help you out, okay?
18 days passed, and then on the 23rd of October 2012, Mindy Sigg dialed 911.
Hi, this is Molly at Westminster Police. Can I help you?
Hi, I need you to come to my house. My son wants to turn himself in for the Jessica Ridgway murder.
The confession was so outrageous that the first responder couldn't believe it.
Hello?
Is this Austin?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Austin. This is Molly at the Westminster Police Department.
Hi.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on right now, or how you're feeling, or how did this come about?
I don't exactly get why you're asking these questions.
Who is this Austin Sigg?
What kind of classes is he taking?
To be a mortician.
He wants to be a mortician? Okay.
But before we dive into his crooked mind, let's rewind back to the 7th of October 2012, 2 days after 10-year-old Jessica Ridgway went missing. On October 7th, a man was walking down the street in Superior Division in Westminster, Colorado, when lying on the sidewalk he found an abandoned school backpack containing purple glasses, boots, urine-soaked clothes, and a water bottle with the words, "Life is good." The concerned local resident noticed Jessica Ridgway's name on the water bottle and posted it online in an attempt to return the belongings. It's been over 48 hours since Jessica Ridgway went missing, and there was an active Amber Alert.
At least 50 police officers, including the FBI, are searching right now, overnight, using bloodhounds in temperatures near freezing, and still no sign of young Jessica Ridgway.
Despite the Amber Alert, the local who found the backpack wasn't aware of it and was merely trying to locate the rightful owner.
We believe the backpack to be Jessica's.
Fortunately, someone online made the connection and alerted the police.
We've been looking for a lead, and this possibly is that.
Jessica, born on January 23, 2002, in Westminster, Colorado, was the daughter of Sarah Ridgway and Jeremiah Bryant. When Jessica was 10 years old, her parents were in the middle of a divorce and were entangled in a custody battle. During this time, Jessica lived with her mom, Sarah, grandmother, and aunt, while her dad lived alone in Missouri. In the fifth
how
grade
is it not
at Witt
like
Elementary
it
School,
even showed
Jessica
the
displayed a
fucking
level of
lows
independence
in the
that was a
inventory
long way
first.
ahead of her age. As a
Seems
member of the
suck
Pee Wee
sometimes.
cheerleading squad, she often practiced at the local Stanley High School. Responsible beyond her years, Jessica took care of her dog and completed tasks without her mother asking twice.
She does everything on her own because she wants to make herself look like she's a grown-up. She wants to be a teenager before she's a teenager.
Jessica had plans to be a zombie lifeguard for Halloween in 2012. The irony and humor in her choice reflect the goofy and funny nature that was Jessica. She had a knack for brightening everyone's life, always adorned with a smile that revealed a charming little gap between her two front teeth. Her infectious personality was complemented by her favorite color, purple, evident in the purple-rimmed glasses she wore daily. The last time Sarah saw Jessica was on Friday morning, October 5th, 2012. Jessica, like any other day, was headed towards Chelsea Park to meet a friend and then walk to school. Her routine included starting the day with a granola bar and an orange, accompanied by some TV while getting ready.
Alarm clock goes off and she comes down, she watches TV, and she eats her granola bar, goes up and gets dressed, comes down, and, you know, we peel oranges for her snack at school. She fills up her water bottle.
Earlier that morning, Jessica had made a call to her friend's dad, planning to meet at the park near his house and walk to school together. Her school was just 3 blocks away from her home. Sarah, having just finished a work shift, returned home at 7:30 a.m. to help her daughter in getting ready for school. Throughout the night, Jessica had been cared for by either her grandmother or aunt, as all three shared the same household. Their work schedules ensured that there was always an adult present to care for Jessica day and night. On this snowy day, Jessica left for school wearing blue jeans, a puffy black jacket with pink lining, and black boots with little fluffy palms. She also wore her distinctive purple prescription eyeglasses. She also carried a black and pink Victorious backpack. On that particular day, Jessica walked directly to school alone because she was running late to meet up with her friend, who, along with his dad, decided to leave without her. The friend thought Jessica's mom would drive her to school. Her friend waited until just 10 minutes before school started, then asked his dad to drive him to ensure he arrived on time. A few weeks prior, there were reports of a white van attempting to lure girls with promises of candy in Colorado, putting the community on high alert.
Free candy?
Unfortunately, on
There's
that
this
fateful
chick I knew in
morning,
high school that
Jessica
spray
was
painted
taken
free
when she was
candy on the
passing
side
a
of a
parked
white
gold
van in
Jeep
our
Cherokee
town.
with a young
And then the
man
next
hiding
morning I wake
inside
up in her
waiting to
bed
grab her.
beside her and she's got a
Jessica
text from
never got to
someone.
school that day.
It's like, I know it was
Sarah,
you
her
that spray
mother, was
painted our
catching
white
up on
van.
sleep due to
She
a
just
late work
blocked her
shift the night
number.
before. Sarah awoke at 4 p.m., and that's when she realized Jessica had not returned home. By now, 10-year-old Jessica Ridgway was missing for 8 hours.
Good times.
The idea that she could be 8 hours in another direction put the police way behind in figuring out where this child might be.
Sarah had put her phone on silent that day due to receiving several random calls, a departure from her usual practice. Upon checking her voicemails, she discovered that the school and the police had called around 10 a.m. to inform her that Jessica did not make it to school.
We make the phone call to the number that the parent requests we call.
Alarmed, Sarah immediately contacted the police to report Jessica missing, knowing that her daughter would never willingly miss a day of school.
Hey, what's going on there?
My daughter's missing. I guess she never made it to school this morning.
How old's your daughter?
She's 10.
Okay, what's your daughter's name?
Jessica Ridgway.
And when did you last see her?
This morning when she left at 8:30.
Did she walk?
Yeah. And I checked her friend's house that she walked and they're not answering the door.
And you said that the school called, so they weren't?
And I work nights, so I slipped through the call.
Okay, Sarah, sorry about that. We've got several officers on the way over to help you out, okay?
Sarah, overcome with worry, hurried to the neighbor's house, desperately asking if they had seen Jessica. From there, she rushed to the school, scanning every inch along the route and across the campus. Despite her relentless search, Jessica was nowhere to be found. A deep, sinking feeling gnawed at Sarah, torn between the possibilities of an accident or abduction. The missing posters vividly describe Jessica. Blue eyes, 4 feet 10 inches tall, blonde hair, and weighing 80 pounds. Jessica's
Why does it say 8
reputation
inches
as a
then?
smart and safety-conscious girl made it unimaginable that she would willingly enter a car with a stranger. Sarah knew Jessica was either forcefully abducted by someone unknown or perhaps willingly got into a car with someone she knew well.
I watch her walk out the door and I shut the door, and that's the last time I saw her, and I want to come walking back through that door.
Law enforcement began looking into the family, exploring the possibility that someone within might be involved in Jessica's kidnapping. The first suspect was her father.
I try to stay positive about it, but yeah, it's hard.
Jeremiah was fighting for her custody, but Jessica's father was quickly ruled out as a suspect, as he had an airtight alibi in Missouri at the time of her disappearance. On that very day, he attended a court hearing regarding the custody of Jessica because he missed his child support payments. On October 6th, the day after her disappearance, an extensive search began, involving the police, family members, and the public. Jessica's usual 1-mile route was combed using search dogs and thermal sensors, but the efforts yielded no results.
Police brought in teams of scent-tracking dogs to search the family's neighborhood.
They looked in everything, you know, washers, dryers. You find this girl, that's the main concern.
They found nothing.
Finally, an Amber Alert was issued, featuring Jessica's photo and description. Purple ribbons were placed around the school and along her route, serving as a visual reminder to the public of her disappearance. This bold crime sent shockwaves through the small community of 13,000 residents. Parents became more vigilant, closely monitoring their children's whereabouts and scrutinizing potential suspects close to home.
I think that all children should.
Imagine being ostracized in your own fucking community. These people think
At
you're
the
just
park
weird.
near Jessica's house, there is now a growing memorial.
On the 7th of October, 2 days after Jessica went missing,
A
that's
weirdo
when
down the
local
street,
found
he's
her
got no
backpack.
kids.
Foreign DNA collected from the backpack was entered into the CODIS database. Turns out the DNA was matched to another case of an assault and attempted abduction earlier that year involving an adult female jogger. However, the attacker was not in the system.
FBI profilers believe the suspect
Oh,
is
my
likely
kitty's
male and
good.
might have recently
I have
missed
a
work or
great
suddenly
stream planned
left
for
town.
tomorrow. We are going
Might have
back to
changed his
COD
appearance or
Zombies. It's
gotten
going to be
rid of his car.
amazing. It's going
The
to be
discovery
lit.
of Jessica's backpack raised both hope and alarm.
As all the fucking
While
hip
it
kids say.
suggested she might still be with her kidnapper, the fact that her glasses were missing and her clothes were soaked in urine indicated potential danger.
The weekend, a glimpse of optimism for the family when Jessica's
10
backpack
a.m.
and water bottle were found in another
We're going for
subdivision.
163.5 and we're
redirected
not
their
just
search
going
efforts
for it,
to
we're
the town of
doing it.
Superior
Just got a
to
brand new
uncover leads
controller.
that could bring them
It's
closer to
happening.
Jessica's whereabouts. On October
Hibbity
10th,
hip
a
hip
tip
hop
led officers
happening.
9 miles away from Jessica's home to the town of Arvada. In Patridge Park, human body parts were discovered in a black trash bag deemed not intact.
Yeah, police are telling us maintenance workers picking up trash along the side of this road found the body. The garbage truck is still parked here, and you can see there the crime scene
Yes,
markings
sir.
police left behind. Today they're processing the scene and releasing the profile of a killer.
New housing developments in a major freeway now surrounded Patridge Park, an old mining area. The remains, covered with a white blanket, impelled police to continue the search for more evidence in the area. Through DNA
2,800.
matching, the police were able to identify the torso. It was Jessica Ridgway, and her family was notified. Upon closer examination, the medical examiner observed signs of cleaning. Astonishingly, it was a wooden cross found inside her vaginal cavity.
It was found at one of the
Jesus.
crime scenes in the case, but police won't say which one because that is information only the killer knows.
A DNA profile of a suspect was extracted from Jessica's remains. At this point, police had not ruled out Jessica's mom, Sarah. When Jessica's father, Bryant, was questioned about Sarah as a potential suspect, he responded, "I don't see how any parent could do something like that to their child."
I just want to find my daughter. I just want her back home.
In a 38-minute public statement on October 17th, Sarah expressed her understanding and cooperation with the police investigation, actively seeking to eliminate herself as a suspect.
I want to stress that we recognize that there is a predator at large in our community.
On October 17th, police canvassed the town where Mindy Sigg lived. Mindy lived in the house with her 2 sons, Austin and his younger brother. Although the police had no immediate cause to search Mindy's home, they were questioning almost everyone. They documented the details she provided. But her neighborhood was stirring up, and the search made the residents uneasy who found her older son, Austin Sigg, odd.
We also recognize that you are familiar with your neighborhood. You'll recognize when something is out of place, when something seems odd or suspicious. We ask that you call. You call immediately and
Got
report
this?
that
Yeah, I
information
hope so.
to us.
On October 19th, a tip from one of Mindy's neighbors led detectives to Austin Sigg. The tip described Austin's obsession with death and a silver cross he wore around his neck. Police questioned him and searched his home, but they couldn't find sufficient evidence to press charges. They also searched his father's mansion in the town of Parker, southeast of Denver. Austin's father, a media company owner, had purchased an estate overlooking the town, providing ample space for Austin to hide Jessica's remains, possessions, or evidence potentially. Police obtained a DNA sample from Austin through a buccal swab to compare with the samples they had from Jessica's water bottle and her remains. The growing police presence seemed to intensify the pressure on Austin Sigg, and by October 22nd, he began to unravel. Feeling sick and wobbly, he confided in his friends at Arapahoe Community College about his misery. But who was this Austin Sigg, and why was he so nervous around the police? Austin Reed Sigg had his roots in Westminster, Colorado, with his mother. Born on January 17, 1995, to Mindy and Robert, his parents parted ways when he was just a child. Post-separation, his father remarried and started living in a nearby mansion, shaping Austin's upbringing. Even after their split, Austin continued vacationing with both Mindy and Robert. His relationship with his father was cordial, though their interactions were limited during his early school years. Austin began his educational journey at Maranatha Christian Center before transferring to Witt Elementary School, the same school Jessica went to. Reading and writing became a challenge during his adolescent years. Teachers observed difficulties in his concentration in class. Pediatricians eventually diagnosed him with attention deficit disorder, ADD.
He was very quiet, shy, and to himself. I would say he was gothic. He never really talked about his family or his friends. Like, all he talked about was like playing or spending time with us. He always wanted to just play capture the flag. That was his main thing, was to play capture the flag with us.
Did he have a lot of friends?
Not that I knew of, just us girls that he would hang out with all the time.
Austin was attending Wayne Carl Middle School in 2008 when his mother Mindy found child pornography on Austin's computer. He was 13 years old. Austin's struggle with an anxiety disorder took center stage, with pediatricians linking it to the escalating addiction to porn. He was prescribed medication for anxiety. Under adult supervision, Austin's perverted interests seemed to fade into the background. Although counselors advised his father to monitor Austin's television and computer activities, there was a lack of concrete actions taken to actively track the content he consumed. This gap in supervision left Austin without the necessary support and intervention to address his challenges. Austin's father, Robert, had an extensive criminal record, which included charges such as burglary, fraud, domestic violence, and driving under the influence. Although there is no evidence linking Robert to child abuse, he has a history of mistreating his spouses, leading to a restraining order from his live-in girlfriend. Despite the early parental conflicts, the later part of Austin's home life was characterized as loving and calm. He enjoyed a circle of friends and led a typical social life. His classmates described him as intelligent, but noted a touch of peculiarity in his demeanor. Austin was part of the Jeff College Concert Choir, where he found himself sometimes teased due to his high-pitched voice for his age. Beyond the choir, his interests extended to realms like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, and a modest collection of decorative swords and knives.
Only sitting there playing Fortnite.
Like, it was shocking. He was the kid that went around school, and like the kids who walked down the hall alone, he would walk with you.
However, it was his open fascination with death that marked Austin as peculiar to some of his peers.
Felt like he was very intelligent, but just those eyes, I don't know. I can't explain it. It's creepy.
Austin's romantic journey began when he met his girlfriend at Warehouse 180, a spot for Christian teens to socialize. They started dating in late middle school and continued throughout high school without any apparent red flags. Describing him as a genuinely sweet guy, his girlfriend never suspected him of intending harm or malice. Throughout high school, Austin would spend the night at his girlfriend's house once a week. His mother, Mindy, noted that he would stay at her place around 3 nights a week, leaving the mystery of where he spent the other nights. Fellow students regarded Austin as a kind individual who would engage in friendly conversations with anyone in the hallways, offering to walk with those alone.
What was he into? What kind of stuff was he interested in?
He loved computers, video games. He liked spending time with family and his girlfriend.
Sharing a room with his younger brother, Austin's side featured katanas, a kimono, and various Japanese decorations, alongside an Abbey Road Beatles poster. His interest in death grew, and he even considered becoming a mortician. Mindy would playfully joke about this fascination with death to friends and neighbors during his time at Stanley Lake High School. While still a teen, Austin attended Arapahoe Community College, taking classes that, according to his brother, delved into the morbid, teaching him how to commit murder and get away with it. Here's where things take a strange turn. Austin practiced zip-tying his mother, claiming it was for school and crime scene investigation purposes. Mindy thought it was part of his studies, but the act struck her as rather unsettling. Despite early efforts to address his issues, it appears that Austin's parents became less vigilant over time. There seems to be a degree of negligence in closely monitoring Austin, even after seeking initial treatment. While it's uncertain if stricter parenting would have altered the outcome, the lack of intervention might have played a role in Austin's eventual actions. Austin's initial foray into criminal behavior occurred on May 28, 2012, at the age of 17. In an unsettling incident, he attempted to subdue a 22-year-old female jogger near Kettner Lake in Westminster Park using a homemade chloroform rag. Austin parked his car near police surveillance. Then he roamed the park, spotting the jogger on her first lap, and then hid in the bushes, waiting for her to circle back for another jog before attacking. Fortunately, the jogger managed to fight him off and escape, promptly reporting the incident to authorities. The jogger described him to the police as a 20 to 25-year-old, 5'7" white male with an average build and brown hair. This vague identification profile prompted authorities to lift a DNA profile from her shirt, entering it into the FBI CODIS database, Combined DNA Index System. Following this failed attack, Austin went on a vacation to the U.S. Virgin Islands with Mindy and Robert. While on vacation, there is no evidence to suggest he committed any crimes. Strikingly, Austin exhibited no signs of peculiar behavior or distress after the attempted assault on the jogger, leading up to the tragic incident involving Jessica Ridgway's murder. Now let's fast forward to October 22nd. The police have taken his DNA in the Jessica Ridgway case, and he knew it was only a matter of time before they would realize it was him all along. He was nervous, and the only comfort he found was in the lap of his mother. It's unclear whether Austin frequently slept in his mom's bed, but on this particular night, he did. The night before his confession, the weight of the trauma from his actions took a toll on him, affecting him profoundly. On October 23rd, Austin finally confessed to his mom, Mindy, that he had murdered Jessica.
Hi, this is Molly at Westminster Police. Can I help you?
Hi, I need you to come to my house. My son wants to turn himself in for the Jessica Ridgway murder.
And what's going on there?
And what's going on there? Just go arrest him.
He confessed to killing her.
I know. I want you to tell me what's going on. Can you tell me exactly what he said?
But he did it, and he gave me details, and her remains are in my house.
Did you see them?
No.
Is he there with you?
Yes.
Is he cooperative?
Yes.
How old is your son?
17.
What is your son's name?
Austin Sig.
Can you spell it? You said Austin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and spell his last name for me.
S as in Sam, I-G-G.
Okay, I understand that you're probably, feeling pretty crappy right now, but I want you to know that you did the right thing.
He did it. He just wanted me to call. He is turning himself in.
Okay. Do you think that he's going to be cooperative with the officers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was then Mindy who made the 911 call to confess on his behalf, informing the police that some of Jessica's remains were still in their house. The police dispatcher persuaded Mindy to hand the phone to Austin so they could speak directly with him and extract more details about the location of the remaining remains.
Do you think that Austin would talk to me?
Will you talk to her? Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Hello.
Is this Austin?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Austin. This is Molly at the Westminster Police Department.
Hi.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on right now, or how you're feeling, or how did this come about?
I don't exactly get why you're asking these questions. I murdered Jessica Ridgway.
Okay.
I have proof that I did it. There is no other question. You just have to send a squad car, something down here, and I will answer all the questions that you want to ask, or anyone wants to ask of me as soon as you gotta get down here.
Okay. Austin, I have a police officer that's going to come over to your house, okay? Can you tell me what part of the house that her remains are in?
Underneath the house and across this.
Okay. Did you know Jessica before this?
No, I did not.
Are you going to school anywhere?
We're at the Hope Community College.
And you're 17?
Yes.
Austin's tone on the call started off matter-of-fact and calm, but it quickly escalated to frustration as the dispatcher persistently asked questions about the murder and motive. During the call, Austin also confessed to attacking a woman at Kettner Lake and revealed that he had a speeding ticket.
Do you have a criminal history of any sort?
The only other thing that I have done that before this was the Kettner Lake incident where the woman got attacked. That was me as well. And other than that, the only criminal history I have is a speeding ticket.
Okay. Do you have a car?
I do.
What kind of vehicle do you have?
Jeep Grand Cherokee.
What color is it?
Golden.
Is it at your house?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, Austin. Well, like just like I said, I am sending you a police officer, okay? But you have to understand that you know, we take this stuff very seriously, and like I said, you did the right thing by calling.
I would have to hope that you would take this serious because this is important. I'm over here.
I absolutely am taking this serious.
He admitted that some of Jessica's remains were in a crawl space beneath the house. Interestingly, the crawl space not only contained evidence of the crime, but also housed a marijuana plant. Given Austin's known habit of smoking marijuana, it appeared to be his personal stash.
And Austin told me he's taking like classes at community college?
Yeah.
What kind of classes is he taking?
To be a mortician.
He wants to be a mortician? Okay.
Mindy audibly laughed when she mentioned that Austin wanted to be a mortician. This reaction could potentially reveal her guilt, denial, or perhaps a certain naivety regarding the gravity of the situation. During the 911 call, Austin sounds deeply shaken up, and both he and Mindy are crying out of fear.
Okay. Are you still at the front door?
Yeah.
Okay. They're walking up to your house, okay? For their safety reasons, they park down the street and they're walking up. Okay, and like I said, they're going to be plain clothes. They're not FBI.
However, when Austin goes to the police station later to make a formal confession, he appears somewhat more relaxed. He's not as visibly shaken, and he maintains a calmer demeanor.
Do you see the plainclothes officers and their badges?
Yeah, they're here.
Okay, I'll let you go speak with them, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
The dispatcher remained on the line with Austin and Mindy until the police arrived, but both of them were physically sick and experiencing panic attacks during this tense and distressing situation. Detectives promptly read Austin his Miranda rights in the presence of Mindy, who gave her consent for Austin to make a full statement. There was no resistance or struggle from Austin, and he willingly went with the police. During his confession, Austin was casually eating and sipping soda. This behavior was later brought up in court. Interestingly, the initial DNA test on Austin's sample, which he was so nervous about, came back negative. Turns out it was a lab technician's error, and a second sample of Austin's DNA was later tested, resulting in a positive match. The fact that the first DNA didn't match meant it actually was his confession that got him. While Austin was interrogated at the police station, officers searched his house. They found black trash bags in the crawl space, similar to the bags used to wrap Jessica's torso, which was found in the park. During the interview, Austin admitted to the horrifying act of murdering Jessica. He claimed to have gone hunting that day, not knowing or having seen Jessica before. On that fateful day, Jessica, being late to school, was possibly one of the very few kids, if not the only one, still walking to school, making her a vulnerable target.
Go on and tell me what happened after you grabbed her.
She screamed and I told her to be quiet, and I used zip ties to zip tie her hands and legs together, and I hopped in the front of my car.
You guys got an abnormally high voice, what the fuck?
I drove around for probably a good 10-20 minutes. I asked her if she had a cell phone, looked for that. She kept asking me questions, and I would answer them, and I would lie to her. I would tell her that everything was going to be okay, and I would just lie to her.
He recounted the horrifying details of grabbing her, placing her in his car and driving away. Eventually arriving at his mother's house.
And I took her up to my room. And I sat her in my room and I played Netflix on the TV for her. It was either like Family Guy or something. I don't remember. It was some cartoon. I just kind of sat there. I sat there and I stared at her and I just remember absolutely blankness in my head. Having no thoughts, nothing. And it terrified me. And after sitting there for probably an hour, maybe, I don't exactly remember, time kind of started feeling weird then.
After navigating the neighborhood, he steered into the garage, sealing the grim fate that awaited Jessica. He subjected Jessica to further torture.
After that, I asked her to change into a pair of a shirt and shorts that I had. And I let her go into the bathroom to do that. And she came back, told her to put all her clothes in her backpack and get her backpack ready and everything to go back.
Compelled by a twisted desire, he compelled her to change into his t-shirt and shorts, given that her clothes were saturated with urine. After having his way with her, Austin initially tried to strangle her with zip ties. When that didn't work, he manually strangulated her. The following day, Austin methodically discarded Jessica's belongings. He casually threw her backpack in plain view in Superior to mislead the authorities. Subsequently, he disposed of her jacket in a trash can to further confuse the cadaver search police dogs in his vicinity. However, Austin's depraved fantasies were far from full. Austin confessed to placing a small hand-carved wooden cross pendant on Jessica's body. However, during the subsequent autopsy, the cross was discovered inside her.
We believe that it was left behind or dropped by somebody that was involved and knows information that we're looking for.
Left intentionally, perhaps?
It potentially was left intentionally.
Astonishingly, Austin admitted to etching 3 designs onto the wooden cross before inserting it into her body.
The cross has 3 distinct marks on one side, and on the other, what appears to be the letter S.
The cross was not an expression of remorse, but a grotesque attempt to mislead investigators by portraying the perpetrator as a religious zealot. The wooden cross discovered in her vaginal cavity bore testament to the depths of Austin's perversion. His decision to place a holy symbol in a place where he degraded her highlighted his utter lack of respect for Jessica, both in life and death. The charges against Austin were comprehensive, encompassing all the crimes perpetrated against Jessica and the female jogger he had previously attacked. Despite initially being sent to a juvenile facility due to his age, he was later charged as an adult and transferred to an adult prison in Jefferson County.
It just looks like a
For the first 52 days in jail, he was placed in a SHU completely isolated from the general population. Austin surprisingly pled not guilty to the 15 charges read against him in court. Despite this initial plea, Austin later changed his stance to guilty in October 2013, just before his trial commenced. It was to spare both his family and Jessica's family from the gruesome details of the crime. During the trial, Chief Judge Stephen Muser of the Jefferson County District Court read a letter that echoed Austin's sentiments during the interrogation. Quoting Austin directly, the judge stated, "I don't know about society because I've never really been that great with it, but I know that personally, I am a monster. There's no better word to describe what I've done than evil." Throughout the proceedings, Austin maintained an emotionless demeanor, fixating on the ground with a vacant stare. However, a glimpse of humanity surfaced during the victim impact statement when he began to cry. Whether these tears were genuine remorse for Jessica or a reaction to his own predicament remains uncertain. I hope that he reflects on the heinous acts he committed every day in his cold and isolated cell. Since it's unconstitutional to impose capital punishment on individuals under the age of 18, this Supreme Court ruling spared Austin from facing the death penalty.
Is that he will not, and we want to emphasize, will not face the death penalty.
On November 19, 2013, he was sentenced to life in prison. The court mandated that he spend his entire life incarcerated, with an additional 86-year sentence to be served concurrently. While I could continue to condemn Austin for the monstrous deeds he perpetrated, it seems evident that he carries a profound sense of self-disgust. It is my sincere wish that he grapples with the weight of his actions daily. Jessica's mother, Sarah, opted not to provide Austin with the satisfaction of acknowledging the extent of the damage he inflicted on Jessica's family.
I don't think that the defendant has the right to hear how he affected me, my family, or who Jessica was. Once we walk out of this courtroom, we'll not remember his name.
Instead, she conveyed that after leaving the courtroom, she would deliberately forget his name and concentrate on preserving Jessica's legacy. In their hearts, Jessica will forever remain 10 years old. 1 year after her tragic death, Chelsea Park was renamed Jessica Ridgway Memorial Park in her honor.
Everywhere you look, there are hints of Jessica, from the purple that is speckled throughout the park.
The park structures are painted in her favorite color and dragonflies as a moving tribute. A memorial rock and bench were placed in the park at the site of her discovery, inviting people to reflect on her enduring legacy. In 2014, Austin was transferred to a prison outside of Colorado for his safety, and the specific location was not disclosed to the public. One might hope that his confinement mirrors the conditions he imposed on his victim. Do let us know your thoughts in the comments.
It looks like a fucking sick bastard. Salmon. Sus chilling, boss. What are you saying? I'm gonna have like 5-6 mil after this, 7 mil even actually. Can't wait. Can't wait, dude. Wow. This is what's up, sus. Tomorrow, bro. Zombie Collector 2.0, what's up? Tomorrow we going live with this. Oh, with this beauty of a game. What are you saying, zombie? Dabbed up as fuck. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. I'm gonna take a tote. Yo, chat. Everyone in chat right now. Pack them right now. Pack them up. Pack it up. You just got home from work. Attaboy. Here, 1 second. I'm gonna put on a fucking video or something here real quick. You know what I'm saying? One dime, but one dime. One dime, but one dime. I don't know what to put on, boys. Lord of the Rings. I think we're in tune for some of the fellowship. I think we're due for some fellow. Listen to chapter 4. The Bridge of Khazad. The Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
The company of the ring stood silent beside the tomb of Balin. Frodo thought of Bilbo.
You love that picture of my dog? Which one? This one?
To the Shire long ago. In that dusty chamber in the mountains, it seemed 1,000 years ago, and on the other side of the world.
Want to see a couple other ones I got?
And began to search for anything that would give them the tidings of Balin's fate, or show that.
I'll show you a couple other ones I got.
There was another smaller door on the other side of the chamber, under the shaft. By both the doors they could now see that many bones were lying, and among them were broken swords and axe heads, and cloven shields, and helms. Some of the swords were crooked, orc scimitars with blackened blades. There were many recesses cut in the rock of the walls, and in them were large iron-bound chests of wood. All had been broken and plundered, but beside the shattered lid of one there lay the remains of a book. It had been slashed and stabbed and partly burned, and it was so stained.
Alright, it's as loud as I'm going.
Like old blood that little of it could be read. Gandalf lifted it carefully, but the leaves crackled and broke as he laid it on the slab. He pored over it for some time without speaking. Frodo and Gimli, standing at his side, could see, as he gingerly turned the leaves, that they were written by many different hands in runes, both of Moria and of Dale, and here and there in Elvish script. At last Gandalf looked up.
It seems to be a record of the fortunes of Balin's folk, he said. I guess that it began with their coming to Dimril Dale nigh on 30 years ago. The pages seem to have numbers referring to the years after their arrival. The top page is marked 1, 3, so at least 2 are missing from the beginning. Listen to this. We drove out orcs from the great gate and guard. I think the next word is blurred and burned. Probably ruined.
What a specimen, man.
We slew many in the bright, I think, sun.
Look at his eyes in this one, he looks possessed.
Floy was killed by an arrow. He slew the great. Then there is a blur followed by Floy under grass near Mirror. The next line or two I cannot read. Then comes, we have taken the 21st.
Cheers on that toke, boys.
To dwell in. There is, I cannot read what. A shaft is mentioned. Then Balin has set up his seat in the chamber of Mazar Mul. The chamber of records, said Gimli. I guess that is where we now stand. Well, I can read no more for a long way, said Gandalf. Except the word gold, and Durin's axe, and something helm. Then, Balin is now Lord of Moria. That seems to end the chapter. After some stars, another hand begins, and I can see we found true silver. Later the word, well forged. And then something. I have it. Mithril. And the last 2 lines. Oin to seek for the upper armories of Third Deep. Something go westwards. Blur to Holland Gate.
Gandalf paused and set a few leaves aside.
There are several pages of the same sort, rather hastily written. Some damaged, he said, but I can make little of them in this light. Ah, there must be a number of leaves missing in quarters. They begin to be numbered 5. The 5th year of the colony, I suppose. Let me see. No, they are too cut and stained. I cannot read them. We might do better in the sunlight. Wait, there is something. A large bold hand using an Elvish script. That would be Orin's hand, said Gimli, looking over the wizard's arm. He could write well and speedily, and often use the Elvish characters. I fear he had ill tidings to record in that fair hand, said Gandalf. The first clear word is sorrow, but the rest of the line is lost unless it ends in...
Yo, you say the trouble, boss?
Yes, it must be yester, followed by day, being the 10th of November. Balin...
Stay out of trouble.
Lord of Moria fell in Dimril Dale. He went alone to look in Mirror. An orc shot him from behind a stone. We slew the orc, but many more up from east up the Silver Lode. The remainder of the page is so blurred that I can hardly make anything out. I think I can read, "We have barred the gates, and then can hold them long if, and then perhaps horrible, and suffer." Poor Barlin. He seems to have kept the title that he took for less than 5 years. I wonder what happened afterwards. But there is no time to puzzle out the last few pages. Here is the last page of all. He paused and sighed. "This is grim reading," he said. "I fear their end was cruel. Listen. We cannot get out. We cannot get out. They have taken the bridge and the second hall. Frar and Loni and Nali fell there. Then there are 4 lines smeared so I can only read. Went 5 days ago. The last lines run, the pool is up to the wall at Westgate. The watcher in the water took Oin. We cannot get out. The end comes. And then drums, drums in the deep. I wonder what it means. The last thing written is a trailing scroll of elf letters. They are coming. There is nothing more. Gandalf paused and stood in silent thought. A sudden dread and horror of the chamber fell on the company. "We cannot get out," muttered Gimli. "It was well for us that the pool had sunk a little, and that the watcher was sleeping down at the southern end." Gandalf raised his head and looked around. "They seem to have made a last stand by both doors," he said. "But there were not many left by that time. So ended the attempt to retake Moria. It was valiant, but foolish. The time is not come yet. Now, I fear we must say farewell to Balin, son of Undin. Here he must lie in the halls of his fathers. We will take his book, the Book of Mazarbul, and look at it more closely later. You had better keep it, Gimli, and take it back to Dane, if you get the chance. It will interest him, though it will grieve him deeply. Come, let us go. The morning is passing." "Which way shall we go?" asked Boromir. "Back to the hall," answered Gandalf. "But our visit to this room had not been in vain."
Deep in Moria?
Here we
Yeah.
are. This must
That's
be
in
it.
like the movie where they knock the head off of Homeboy.
And the hall must be the 21st of the north end. Therefore we should leave
And all the
Beowulf
orcs
and
swarm
Archer
him.
the hall, and bear right and south and go downwards. The 21st hole should be on the 7th level. That is 6 above the level of the gates. Come now, back to the hall. Gandalf had hardly spoken these words when there came a great noise. A rolling boom that seemed to come from the depths far below, and to tremble in the stone at their feet. They sprang towards the door in alarm. Doom, doom,
that's
rolled
it?
again, as if huge hands were turning the very caverns of Moria into a vast drum. Then there came an echoing blast. A great horn was blown in the hole, and answering horns and harsh cries were heard further off. There was a hurrying sound of many feet.
Okay.
"They are coming!" cried Legolas.
I like the emote with that. That's funny.
Right, cried Gandalf. "Why did I delay? Here we are, caught just as they were before. And I was not here then. We shall see what..." Doom, doom, came the drumbeat and the walls shook.
"Slam the doors and wedge them!
Shouted Aragorn.
And keep your packs on as long as you can! We may get a chance to cut our way out yet!"
Said Gandalf. "We must not get shut in. Keep the east door ajar. We will go that way if we get a chance." Another harsh horn call and shrill cries rang out. Feet were coming down the corridor. There was a ring and clatter as the company drew their swords. Glamdring shone in a pale light, and Sting glinted at the edges. Boromir set his shoulder against the western door. "Wait a moment! Don't close it yet!" said Gandalf. He sprang forward to Boromir's side and drew himself up to his full height. "Who comes hither to disturb the rest of Balin, Lord of Moria? He cried in a loud voice. There was a rush of hoarse laughter, like the fall of sliding stones into a pit. Amid the clamour, a deep voice was raised in command. Doom, doom, doom went the drums in the deep. With a quick movement, Gandalf stepped before the narrow opening of the door and thrust forward his staff.
Yeah.
There was a dazzling flash that lit the chamber and the passage outside. For an instant, the wizard looked out. Arrows whined and whistled down the corridor as he sprang back. There are orcs, many of them, he said, and some are large and evil. Black rooks of Mordor. For the moment, they are hanging back, but there is something else there. A great cave troll, I think. Or more than one. There is no hope of escape that way.
And no hope at all if they come at the other door as well,
said Boromir. There is no sound outside here yet, said Aragorn, who was standing by the eastern door listening. The passage on this side plunges straight down a stair. It plainly does not lead back towards the hall, but it is no good flying blindly this way with the pursuit just behind. We cannot block the door. Its key is gone and the lock is broken, and it opens inwards. We must do something to delay the enemy first. We will make them fear the chamber of Mazarbul, he said firmly, feeling the edge of his sword, Anduril. Heavy feet were heard in the corridor. Boromir flung himself against the door and heaved it to. Then he wedged it with broken sword blades and splinters of wood. The company retreated to the other side of the chamber. But they had no chance to fly yet. There was a blow on the door that made it quiver. And then it began to grind slowly open, driving back the wedges. A huge arm and shoulder with a dark skin of greenish scales was thrust through the widening gap. Then a great, flat, toeless foot was forced through below. There was dead silence outside. Boromir leaped forward and hewed at the arm with all his might. His sword rang, glanced aside, and fell from his shaken hand. The blade was notched.
Okay, they got a cave troll, yeah, iconic.
Felt a hot wrath blaze up in his heart. And springing beside Boromir, he stooped and stabbed with sting the hideous foot. There was a bellow, and the foot jerked back, nearly wrenching Sting from Frodo's arm. Black drops dripped from the blade and smoked on the floor. Boromir hurled himself against the door and slammed it again. For the Shire! Cried Aragorn. The hobbit's bite is deep. You have a good blade, Frodo, son of Drogo. There was a crash on the door, followed by crash after crash. Rams and hammers were beating against it. It cracked and staggered back, and the opening grew suddenly wide. Arrows came whistling in, but struck the northern wall and fell harmlessly to the floor. There was a horn blast and a rush of feet, and orcs one after another leaped into the chamber. How many there were the company could not count. The affray was sharp, but the orcs were dismayed by the fierceness of the defense. Legolas shot two through the throat. Gimli hewed the legs from under another that had sprung up on Balin's tomb. Boromir and Aragorn slew many. When 13 had fallen, the rest fled shrieking, leaving the defenders unharmed, except for Sam, who had a scratch along the scalp. A fire was smouldering in his brown eyes that would have made 10 sandy men step backwards if he had seen it.
Now is the time!
Cried Gandalf.
Let's go before the troll returns!
But even as they retreated and before Pippin and Merry had reached the stair outside, a huge orc chieftain, almost man-high, clad in black mail from head to foot, leaped into the chamber. Behind him, his followers clustered in the doorway. His broad, flat face was swart, his eyes were like coals, and his tongue was red. He wielded a great spear. With a thrust of his huge hide shield, he turned Boromir's sword and bore him backwards, throwing him to the ground. Diving under Aragorn's blow with the speed of a striking snake, he charged into the company and thrust his spear straight at Frodo. And Frodo was hurled against the wall and pinned. Sam, with a cry, hacked at the spear shaft and it broke. But even as the orc flung down the truncheon and swept out his scimitar, Anduril came down upon his helm. There was a flash like flame and the helm burst asunder. The orc fell with cloven head. His followers fled howling as Boromir and Aragorn sprang at them. Went the drums in the deep. The great voice rolled out again.
No!
Shouted Gandalf.
Now is the chance! Run for it!
Aragorn picked up Frodo when he lay by the wall and made for the stair.
pushing Merry and Pippin in front of him. The others followed, but Gimli had to be dragged away by Legolas. In spite of the peril, he lingered by Balin's tomb with his head bowed. Boromir hauled the eastern door to, grinding upon its hinges. It had great iron rings on either side, but could not be fastened.
I'm alright.
Gasped Frodo.
I can walk. Put me down.
Aragorn nearly dropped him in his amazement.
I thought you were dead.
He cried.
Not yet, said Gandalf, but there is no time to wonder. Off you go, and all of you down the stairs.
Me
Wait a
thrill,
few minutes for me
mister.
at the bottom, but if I do not come soon, go on. Go quickly, choosing paths, leading right and downwards.
We cannot leave you to hold the door alone, said Aragorn.
As I say,
Said Gandalf fiercely.
swords are no more use here. Go!
The passage was lit by no shaft and was utterly dark. They groped their way down a long flight of steps and then looked back. But they could see nothing, except high above them the faint glimmer of the wizard's staff. He seemed to be still standing on guard by the closed door. Frodo breathed heavily and leaned against Sam, who put his arms around him. They stood peering up the stairs into the darkness. Frodo thought he could hear the voice of Gandalf above, muttering words that ran down the sloping roof with a sighing echo. He could not catch
Nice
what was
dub,
said.
Sean.
The walls seemed to be trembling. Every now and again the drum beats throbbed and rolled. Doom, doom. Suddenly at the top of the stair there was a stab of white light. Then there was a dull rumble and a heavy thud. The drum beats broke out wildly. Doom, boom, doom, boom. And then stopped. Gandalf came flying down the steps and fell to the ground in the midst of the company.
Well, that's over,
Said the wizard, struggling to his feet.
I have done all that I could. I have met my match, and have nearly been destroyed. But don't stand there, go on! You have to do without light for a while. I am rather shaken. Go on! Where are you, Gimli? Come ahead with me. Keep close behind, all of you.
They stumbled after him, wondering what had happened. Doom, doom went the drum beats again.
I am nearly
They now sounded
destroyed.
muffled and far away, but they were moving. There was no other sound of pursuit, neither tramp of feet, nor any voice. Gandalf took no turns, right or left, for the passage seemed to be going in the direction that he desired. Every now and again, it descended a flight of steps, 50 or more, to a lower level. At the moment, that was their chief danger, for in the dark they could not see a descent, until they came on it and put their feet out into emptiness. Gandalf felt the ground with his staff like a blind man. At the end of an hour,
Yes,
they had
sir,
gone a mile,
Thug Dog.
or maybe a
Everything
little more,
going good? How about you?
and had descended many flights of stairs. There was still no sound of pursuit. Almost they began to hope that they would escape. At the bottom of the 7th flight, Gandalf halted.
It's getting hot.
He gasped.
We ought to be down at least on the level of the gates now. Soon I think we should look for a left-hand turn to take us east. I hope it's not far. I'm very wary. I must rest here a moment. Even if all the orcs ever spawned are after us.
Gimli took his arm and helped him down to a seat on the step.
What happened up in the door?
He asked.
Did you meet the beater of the drums? I do not know,
Answered Gandalf.
but I found myself suddenly
This is a Lord of the Rings audiobook.
by something that I've not met before. I could think of nothing to do but to try to put a shutting spell on the door. I know many, but doing things of that kind rightly requires time, and even then the door can be broken by strength. As I stood there, I could hear orc voices on the other side. At any moment I thought they would burst it open. I could not hear what was said. They seemed to be talking in their own hideous language. All I caught was gash, that is fire. Then something came into the chamber. I felt it through the door, and the orcs themselves were afraid and fell silent. It laid hold on the iron ring, and then it perceived me and my spell. What it was I cannot guess, but I've never felt such a challenge. The counterspell was terrible. It nearly broke me. For an instant the door left my
The
control.
return is among us.
I had to speak a word of command.
Yes, sir.
That proved too great
Tomorrow,
to stay.
10 a.m., baby.
The door burst in pieces. Something dark. As a cloud.
By 50 seconds? Bro, what the fuck?
Stairs.
That's a huge jump. What the fuck?
I'm afraid Barlin is buried deep, and maybe something else is buried there too. I cannot say.
In years it feels like. Damn, brother. Cheers.
Completely blocked.
Make sure you rinse it out real good, you know? Clean it real good before you use it.
But it is passing.
Everything, the bulk piece too. Down, stem, everything, you know? Make sure you clean it out good.
More delighted in my life when I heard you spoke. I fear that it was a brave but dead hobbit that Aragorn was carrying.
What about me?
I got a controller today. God bless my brother, man. Tomorrow morning, we're going hard on some zombies. We're getting a game. Tomorrow, I'm hitting around 100 on 5. Guarantee it. Clip it and ship it, baby.
Had I known, I would have spoken softer in the inn and Bree.
Still so much to improve on, too. Yo, you know what, bro? You can do whatever you put your mind to, bro. I'm a firm believer in that.
Between a hammer and an anvil.
He said no more. He found breathing painful.
You gonna do it on stream, Sean? Yes, sir. Love some shirtless gaming going in the morning there.
Frodo wondered if the remark meant more than it said. They now went on again. Before long, Gimli spoke. He had keen eyes in the dark.
We're getting 105 tomorrow, 100%.
But it is not daylight.
100 on 5, I should say.
What can that be?
Gash, muttered Gandalf.
I wonder if that is what they meant. With the lower levels on fire? Still, we can only go on.
Soon the light
Be
became
there with bells
unmistakable
on, I feel it.
and could be seen by all.
We'll
It
try
was
to be
flickering
there,
and
and
glowing
if you're
on
not
the
there,
walls
it's no
away down the
biggie.
passage before them. They could now see their way.
No
In
ting,
front, the
you know?
road sloped down swiftly, and some way ahead there stood a low archway. Through it the growing light came. The air became very hot. When they came to the arch, Gandalf went through, signing to them to wait. As he stood just beyond the opening, they saw his face lit by a red glow. Quickly he
Bro, that looks sick. You got the frosted glass too? That's sick.
The forest for our welcome, no doubt. But I know now where we are. We have reached the first deep in the level immediately below the gates. This is the second hall of Old Mordor.
You should also try to play zombies on Friday night. That stream would be popping.
A quarter of a mile across the bridge,
Eh,
up a broad stair,
maybe.
along a wide road, through the first
We'll see what's
hall,
good.
and out. But come and look.
But that shit looks fire.
They peered out. Before them was another cavernous hall. It was loftier and far longer than the one in which they had slept. They were near its eastern end. Westward it ran away into darkness. Down the center stalked a double line of towering pillars.
Yeah, bro, looks sick. My buddy used to have a bunk kind of like that, except it was like 3 honeycombs. It's 3 honeycombs, and it was all frosted cheech like that.
But a red glow was
Then his
darker
place
than
got
on the
raided,
sides.
and they smashed his bunk.
Right across the floor, close to the feet of 2 huge pillars, a great fissure had opened. Out of it, a fierce red light came, and now and again flames licked at the brink and curled about the bases of the columns. Wisps of dark smoke wavered in the hot air.
If we had come by the main road down to the upper halls, we should have been trapped here.
130? Oh, that's cheap as fuck, dude. What?
Between us and pursuit.
Damn.
Come! There is no time to lose!
Good shit.
Even as they spoke, they heard again the pursuing drum beat. Do, do, do. Away beyond the shadows at the western end of the hall, there came cries and horn calls. Do, do. The pillars seemed to tremble and the flames to quiver.
Now, for the last race,
said Gandalf.
If the sun is shining outside, we may still escape. After me!
He turned left and sped across the smooth floor of the hall. The distance was greater than it had looked. As they ran,
She was trying to get some of that schmeat. She was trying to see if your name was real.
a shrill yell went up. They had been seen. There was a ring of clash of steel. An arrow whistled over Frodo's head. Boromir laughed.
They did not expect this,
He said,
the fire has cut them off. We're on the wrong side. Look ahead.
called Gandalf.
The bridge is near. It is dangerous and narrow.
Suddenly Frodo saw before him a black chasm. At the end of the hall, the floor vanished and fell to an unknown depth. The outer door could only be reached by a slender bridge of stone, without curb or rail, that spanned the chasm with
That's
one
pretty
curving
funny.
spring of 50 feet.
That's pretty funny.
It was an ancient defense of the dwarves against any enemy that might capture the first hall and the outer passages. They could only
That
pass
honestly
across
is
in
pretty
single
funny.
file, At the brink, Gandalf halted, and the others came up in a pack behind. Lead the way, Gimli, he said. Pippin and Merry next. Straight on, and up the stair, beyond the door. Arrows fell among them. One struck Frodo and sprang back. Another pierced Gandalf's hat and stuck there like a black feather. Frodo looked behind. Beyond the fire, he saw swarming black figures. There seemed to be hundreds of orcs. They brandished spears and scimitars which shone red as blood in the firelight. Doom, doom, rolled the drum beats, growing louder and louder. Doom, doom. Legolas turned and set an arrow to the string, though it was a long shot for his small bow. He drew, but then his hand fell, and the arrow slipped to the ground. He gave a cry of dismay and fear. Two great trolls appeared. They bore great slabs of stone and flung them down to serve as gangways over the fire. But it was not the trolls that had filled the elf with terror. The ranks of the orcs had opened, and they crowded away as if they themselves were afraid. Something was coming up behind them. What it was could not be seen. It was like a great shadow, in the middle of which was a dark form. Of man shape, maybe, yet greater. And a power and terror seemed to be in it, and go before it. It came to the edge of the fire, and the light faded as if a cloud had bent over it. Then with a rush it leaped across the fissure. The flames roared up to greet it, and wreathed about it, and the black smoke swirled in the air. Its streaming mane kindled and blazed behind it. In its right hand was a blade like a stabbing tongue of fire, and in its left it held a whip of many thongs.
Hi! Hi! A Balrog! A Balrog has come!
Gimli stared with wide eyes.
Durin's bed!
He cried, letting the axe fall. He covered his face. A Balrog, muttered Gandalf. Now I understand. He faltered and leaned heavily on his staff. What an evil fortune.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate that.
The dark figure streaming with fire raced towards them. The orcs yelled and poured over the stone gangways. Then Boromir raised his horn and blew. Loud the challenge rang and bellowed, like the shout of many throats under the cavernous roof. For a moment the orcs quailed and the fiery shadow halted. Then the echoes died as suddenly as a flame blown out by a dark wind. And the enemy advanced again.
Over the bridge!
Cried Gandalf, recalling strength.
Fly! This is a foe beyond any of you! I was holding that away! Fly!
Aragorn and Boromir did not heed the command, but still held their ground, side by side, behind Gandalf at the far end of the bridge. The others halted just within the doorway at the hall's end, and turned, unable to leave their leader to face the enemy alone.
No!
The Balrog reached the bridge. Gandalf stood in the middle of the span, leaning on the staff in his left hand, but in his other hand Glandring gleamed, cold and white. His enemy halted again, facing him, and the shadow about it reached out like two vast wings. It raised the whip, and the thongs whined and cracked. Fire came from its nostrils, but Gandalf stood firm.
You cannot pass,
he said. The orcs stood still, and a dead silence fell.
I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Arnor. You cannot pass!
Got you.
The dark fire will not avail you! Flame of Ultun! Go back to the shadow! You cannot pass!
He said. The orcs stood still. The Balrog made no answer. The fire there seemed to die, but the darkness grew. It stepped forward slowly onto the bridge, and suddenly it drew itself into a great height, and its wings were spread from wall to wall. But still Gandalf could be seen, glimmering in the gloom. He seemed small, and altogether alone, grey and bent, like a wizened tree before the onset of a storm. From out of the shadow a red sword leaped flaming. Gantry glittered white in answer. There was a ringing flash and a stab of white fire. The Balrog fell back, and its sword flew up in molten fragments. The wizard swayed on the bridge, stepped back a pace, and then again stood still.
You cannot pass!
He said. With a bound, the Balrog leaped full upon the bridge. Its whip whirled and hissed.
He cannot stand alone!
Cried Aragorn suddenly, and ran back along the bridge.
Elendil!
He shouted.
I am with you, Gandalf! Gondor!
Cried Boromir and leaped after him. At that moment, Gandalf lifted his staff, and crying aloud, he smote the bridge before him. The staff broke asunder and fell from his hand. A blinding sheet of white flame sprang up. The bridge cracked. Right at the Balrog's feet it broke, and the stone upon which it stood crashed into the gulf, while the rest remained, poised, quivering like a tongue of rock thrust out into emptiness. With a terrible cry, the Balrog fell forward, and its shadow plunged down and vanished. But even as it fell, it swung its whip, and the tongs lashed and curled about the wizard's knees, dragging him into the brink. He staggered and fell, grasped vainly at the stone, and slid into the abyss. He cried, and was gone. The fires went out, and blank darkness fell. The company stood rooted with horror, staring into the pit. Even as Aragorn and Boromir came flying back,
helping them load the groceries and stuff. Nice. My grandma's kind of in the hospital dying.
Come! I will lead you now!
He called.
We must obey his last command. Follow me!
They stumbled wildly
It's
up
kind
the
of
great stairs
shitty,
beyond
but you
the door.
know, she's like 88 years old. Smokes 2 packs of
At the top
cigarettes a
was
day.
wide, echoing passage.
It's kind of
Along this
just
they
like
fled.
bound to
Frodo
happen.
heard Sam at his side weeping, and then he found that he himself was
She's got pneumonia, barely breathe.
Doom.
It's not
The
looking good.
trumpets rolled behind, mournful now and slow. They ran on. The light grew before them. Great shafts pierced the roof. They ran swifter. They passed into a hall, bright with daylight from its high windows in the east. They fled across it. Through its huge broken doors they
it's
passed,
sorry for her.
and
She's a
suddenly
good
before them
woman.
the great gates opened, an arc of blazing light.
Let's
There was
hope
a
it
guard of
happens
orcs
fast,
crouching
you
in the
know.
shadows behind the great doorposts, towering on either side. But the gates were shattered and cast down. Aragorn smote to the ground the captain that stood in his path, and the rest fled in terror of his wrath. The company swift past them and took no heed of them. Out of the gates they ran and sprang down the huge and age-worn steps, the threshold of Moria. Thus, at last, they came beyond hope under the sky and felt the wind on their faces. They did not halt until they were out of bowshot from the walls. Dimril Dale lay about them. The shadow of the misty mountains lay upon it. But eastwards there was a golden light on the land. It was but 1 hour after noon. The sun was shining. The clouds were white and high. They looked back. Dark
The
yawned
sound
the
effects
tree
in
of
this
the gates
version
under
do
the
go
long
hard though,
shadow.
honestly.
Faint and far beneath the earth rolled the slow drum beats. Doom. A thin black smoke trailed out. Nothing else was to be seen. The dale all around was empty. Doom. Grief, at last, wholly overcame them, and they wept long. Some standing and silent, some cast upon the ground.
Like, even the reader stops. Even the reader stops. That's quality. That's quality.
Said Aragorn, looking back towards the gates.
That's quality, man. On Jesus.
The company of the ring stood silent, said Aragorn.
Alas, I fear we cannot stay here any longer,
said Aragorn. He looked towards the mountains and held up his sword.
Farewell, Gandalf,
He cried.
Did I not say to you, if you pass the doors of Moria, beware? Alas, that I spoke true. What hope have we without you? He turned to the company. We must do without her, he said. At least we may yet be avenged. Let us gird ourselves and weep no more. Come. We have a long road and much to do.
You're here.
They rose and looked about them. Northward the dale ran up into a glen of shadows, between two great arms of the mountains, above which 3 white peaks were shining. Celebdil, Fanuidhol, Caradras, the mountains of Moria. At the head of the glen, a torrent flowed like a white lace over an endless ladder of short falls, and a mist of foam hung in the air about the mountain's feet.
Yonder is the Dimril Stair,
said Aragorn, pointing to the falls.
Down the deep cloven way that climbs beside the torrent we should have come. If fortune had been kinder.
Oh, Caradras, less cruel.
Keep fucking just high elking this and watch this cash stack grow. We're gonna have like 6 mil when this is all said and done. A bunch of fucking magic XP.
To the east, the outflung arm
Hopefully get to like level 84 or something.
And far lands could be descried beyond them, wide and vague. To the south, the misty mountains receded endlessly as far as
maybe 82, 83.
less than
I
a
don't
mile
know
away,
level I am.
and a little
What
below
am I,
them,
80,
the east
81,
stood
so maybe
high up on
what?
the west side of the dale.
We get to 83.
There lay a mere. It was long and oval, shaped like a great spearhead thrust deep into the northern glen, but its southern end was beyond the shadows under the sunlit sky. Yet its waters were dark, a deep blue like clear evening sky seen from a lamplit room. Its face was still and unruffled. About it lay a smooth sward, shelving down on all sides to its bare, unbroken rim.
There lies the Mirrormere, deep Caledzaram,
said Gimli sadly.
I remember that he said, may you have joy of the sight, but we cannot linger here. How long I shall journey, ere I have joy again. It is I that must hasten away, and he that must remain.
The company now went down the road from the gates. It was rough and broken, fading to a winding track beneath heather and whin that thrust amid the cracking stones. But still it could be seen that once long ago a great paved way had wound upwards from the lowlands of the dwarf kingdom. In places there were ruined works of stone beside the path, and mounds of green topped with slender birches, or fir trees sighing in the wind. An eastward bend led them hard by the sward of Mirrormere, and there, not far from the roadside, stood a single column broken at the top.
That is Durin Stone,
cried Gimli.
I cannot pass without turning aside for a moment to look at the wonder of the dale.
Be swift then, said Aragorn, looking back towards the gates.
The sun sinks early. The orcs will not maybe come out till after dusk, but we must be far away before nightfall. The moon is almost spent, and it will be dark tonight. Come with me, Frodo,
cried the dwarf, springing from the road.
I would not have you go without seeing Caledzaram.
He ran down the long green slope. Frodo followed slowly, drawn by the still blue water in spite of hurt and weariness. Sam came up behind. Beside the standing stone, Gimli halted and looked up. It was cracked and weather-worn, and the faint runes upon its side could not be read.
This pillar marks the spot where Durin's first looked into the Mirrormere,
said the dwarf.
What is heist? Heist replaced like gambling, essentially.
Over the dark water.
Yeah, heist replaced gambling, essentially, and I can just control the odds of how we win. So now we win like 60% of the time.
Mountains mirrored in a profound blue, and the peaks were like plumes of white flame above them.
It's way more efficient for getting points.
There was a pace of sky.
Way more fun too.
There, like jewels sunk in the deep, shone glinting stars, though sunlight was in the sky above. Of their own stooping forms, no shadow could be seen.
Oh, Caledzaram fair and wonderful,
said Gimli.
Join up, boys, getting this heist.
He bowed and turned away and hastened back up the greensward to the road again. What did you see? Said Pippin to Sam.
I remember that's for
Sam was
him.
too deep in thought to answer. The road now turned south and went quickly downwards, running out from between the arms of the dale. Some way below the mere they came on a deep well of water, clear as crystal, from which a freshet fell over a stone lip and ran glistening and gurgling down a steep rocky channel.
Here is the spring from which the silver lode rises, said Gimli. Do not drink from it. It is icy cold.
Soon it becomes a swift river, and it gathers water from many other mountain streams, said Aragorn. Our road leads beside it for many miles, where I shall take you by the road that Gandalf chose. First, I hope to come to the woods where the silver lode flows into the great river. Out yonder. They looked as he pointed, and before them they could see the stream leaping down from the trough of the valley, and then running on and away into the lower lands until it was lost in a golden haze. There lie the woods of Lothlorien.
Damn, we all lost? Are you fucking kidding me?
There are no trees like the trees of that land.
Wow.
For in the autumn their leaves fall not, but turn to gold.
The
Not
Kraken
till the spring
fucked
comes
us.
and the new green opens do they fall, and then the boughs are laden with yellow flowers, and the floor of the wood is golden, and golden is the roof, and its pillars are of silver. For the bark of the trees is smooth and grey. So still our songs in Mirkwood say, my heart would be glad if I were beneath the eaves of that wood, and it was springtime. My heart would be glad even in the winter, said Aragorn. But it lies many miles away. Let us hasten. For some time, Frodo and Sam managed to keep up with the others, but Aragorn was leading them at a great pace, and after a while they lagged behind.
I got all my points organically just through gambling. I'm not even trolling. Every single point I have organically.
In spite of the shining sun, the wind seemed chill after the warm.
Not even trolling.
He shivered. Frodo felt every step more painful.
Just from playing heist.
At last Legolas turned, and seeing them now far behind, he spoke to Aragorn. The others halted, and Aragorn ran back, calling to Boromir to come with him. I'm sorry, Frodo, he cried, full of concern. So much has happened this day, and we have such need of haste that I have forgotten that you are hurt. And Sam too. And we have done nothing to ease you as we ought, though all the orcs of Moria are after us. Come now. A little further on there is a place where we can rest for a little. There I will do what I can for you. Come, Boromir. We will carry them.
Sean is the goat.
Soon afterwards they came upon another stream that ran down from the west and joined its bubbling water with the hurrying silver lode. Together they plunged over a fall of green-hued stone and foamed down into a dell. About it stood fir trees, short and bent, and its sides were steep and clothed with hart's tongue and shrubs of whortleberry. At the bottom there was a level space through which the stream flowed noisily over shining pebbles. Here they rested. It was now nearly 3 hours afternoon, and they had come only a few miles from the gates.
Just murking this fucking mouse
Gimli and the
button.
two younger hobbits kindled a fire
Just
of brush and firwood
murking
and
it.
drew water. Aragorn tended Sam and Frodo. Sam's wound was not deep, but it looked ugly, and Aragorn's face was grave as he examined it. After a moment, he looked up with relief. Good luck, Sam, he said. Many have received worse than this in payment for the slaying of their first orc. The cut is not poisoned, as the wounds of orc blades too often are. It should heal well when I have tended it. Bathe it when Gimli has heated water. He opened his pouch and drew out some withered leaves. They are dry, and some of their virtue has gone, he said. But here I have still some of the leaves of Athalas that I gathered near Weathertop. Crush one in the water and wash the wound clean, and I will bind it. Now it is your turn, Frodo. I'm all right, said Frodo, reluctant to have his garments touched. All I needed was some food and a little rest. No, said Aragorn. We must have a look and see what the hammer and anvil have done to you. I still marvel that you are alive at all. Gently he stripped off Frodo's old jacket and worn tunic, and gave a gasp of wonder. Then he laughed. The silver corselet shimmered before his eyes like the light upon a rippling sea. Carefully he took it off and held it up, and the gems of it glittered like stars. and the sound of the shaken rings was like a tinkle of rain in a pool. Look! Look, my friends. Here's a pretty hobbit skin to wrap an elven princeling in. If it were known that hobbits had such hides, all the hunters of Middle-earth would be riding to the Shire.
And all the arrows of all the hunters in the world would be in vain,
said Gimli, gazing at the mail in wonder.
It is a mithril coat. Mithril! I have never seen or heard tell of one so fair. Is this a coat that Gandalf spoke of? Huh, and he undervalued it. But it was well given.
I've often wondered what you and Bilbo were doing so close in his little room, said Merry. Huh. Ah, bless the old hobbit. I love him more than ever. I hope we get a chance of telling him about it.
Oh, you will, young hobbit.
There was a dark and blackened bruise on Frodo's right side and breast. Under the mail, there was a shirt of soft leather, but at one point the rings had been driven through it into the flesh. Frodo's left side was also scored and bruised where he had been held against the wall. While the others set the food ready, Aragorn bathed the hurts with water in which Athelas was steeped. The pungent fragrance filled the dell, and all those who stooped over the streaming water felt refreshed and strengthened. Soon Frodo felt the pain leave him, and his breath grew easy, though he was stiff and sore to the touch for many days. Aragorn bound some soft pads of cloth at his side. The mail is marvelously light, he said. Put it on again if you can bear it. My heart is glad to know that you have such a coat. Do not lay it aside even in sleep unless fortune brings you where you are safe for a while. And that will seldom chance while your quest lasts. When they had eaten, the company got ready to go on. They put out the fire and hid all traces of it. Then, climbing out of the dell, they took to the road again. They had not gone far before the sun sank behind the westward heights, and great shadows crept down the mountainsides. Dusk veiled their feet, and mist rose in the hollows. Away in the east, the evening light lay pale upon the dim lands of distant plain and wood. Sam and Frodo, now feeling eased and greatly refreshed, were able to go at a fair pace, and with only one brief halt, Aragorn led the company on for nearly 3 more hours. It was dark. Deep night had fallen. There were many clear stars, but the fast waning moon would not be seen till late. Gimli
Fuck, man,
and
this
Frodo
audiobook's like the
rear,
best audiobook
walking
I've ever
softly,
heard.
not speaking, listening for any sound upon the road behind. At length Gimli broke the silence.
Not a sound but the wind,
he said.
There are no goblins near, or my ears are made of wood. It is to be hoped that the orcs will be content with driving us from Moria. And maybe that was all their purpose, and they had nothing else to do with us. With the ring. Though orcs will often pursue foes for many leagues into the plain, if they have a fallen captain to avenge.
Frodo did not answer. He looked at Sting, and the blade was dull. Yet he had heard something, or thought he had. As soon as the shadows had fallen about them, and the road behind was dim, he had heard again the quick patter of feet. Even now he heard it. He turned swiftly. There were 2 tiny gleams of light behind, or for a moment he thought he saw them, but at once they slipped aside and vanished.
What is it?
Said the dwarf.
I don't know,
answered Frodo.
I thought I heard feet, and I thought I saw a light. Like eyes. I have thought so often since we first entered Moria.
Gimli halted and stooped to the ground.
I hear nothing but the night speech of plant and stone,
he said.
Come, let us hurry. The others are out of sight.
The night wind blew chill up the valley to meet them. Before them, a wide grey shadow loomed, like poplars in the breeze.
Lothlorien!
Cried Legolas.
Lothlorien! We have come to the eaves of the Golden Wood. Alas that it is winter.
Under the night, the trees stood tall before them, arched over the road and stream that ran suddenly beneath their spreading boughs. In the dim light of the stars, their stems were grey, and their quivering leaves a hint of fallow gold.
Lothlorien,
said Aragorn.
Glad I am to hear again the wind in the trees. We are still little more than 5 leagues from the gates, but we can go no further. Here let us hope that the virtue of the elves will keep us tonight from the peril that comes behind.
If elves indeed still dwell here in the darkening world,
said
Gimli. It is long since
So,
any of
like,
my
what?
folk journeyed hither, back to the land whence we wandered in ages long ago, said Legolas. But we hear that Lothlorien is not yet
400
There is a
k.
secret power here that holds evil from the land. Nevertheless, its
So
folk
that
are
is our
seldom
page
seen.
for essentially.
Maybe they dwell now deep in the woods and far from the northern border. Indeed, deep in the wood they
100k
dwell,
and then
said
300k, and
Aragorn,
then those will be paid
and
off.
sighed as if some memory stirred in him. We must fend for ourselves tonight. We will go forward in a short way until the trees are all about us, and then we will turn aside from the path and seek a place to rest in. He stepped forward, but Boromir stood irresolute and did not follow.
is there no other way?
He said,
What other fairer way would you desire?
said Aragorn,
A plain road, though it led through a hedge of swords.
said Boromir.
By strange paths has this company led, and so far to evil fortune. Against my will we passed under the shades of Moria to our loss, and now we must enter the Golden Wood, you say. But of that perilous land we have heard in Gondor, and it is said that few come out who once go in, and of that few none have escaped unscathed.
Say not unscathed, but if you say unchanged, then maybe you will speak the truth, said Aragorn.
But law wanes in Gondor, Boromir, if the city of those who once were wise. They now speak evil of Lothlorien. Believe what you will, there is no other way for us unless you would go back to Moria Gate, or scale the pathless mountains, or swim the great river all alone. Then lead on,
said Boromir. But it is perilous. Perilous indeed, said Aragorn.
Fair and perilous. But only evil need fear it, or those who bring some evil with them. Follow me.
They had gone little more than a mile into the forest when they
I have like
came
the
upon
most
a
evil
stream
thing on
flowing
them
down
though, the
swiftly
ring.
from the tree-clad slopes that climbed back westwards towards the mountains. They heard it splashing over a fall away among the shadows on their right. Its dark hurrying waters ran across the path before them and joined the Silverlode in a swirl of dim pool among the roots of trees.
Here is Nimrodel,
said Legolas.
Of this stream the Sylvan elves made many songs long ago, and still we sing them in the north. Remembering the rainbow on its falls, and the golden flowers that floated in its foam. All is dark now, and the bridge of Nimrodel is broken down. I will bathe my feet, for it is said that the water is healing to the weary.
He went forward and climbed down the deep cloven bank and stepped into the stream.
Follow me,
He cried.
the water is not deep. Let us wade across. On the further bank we can rest, and the sound of the falling water may bring us sleep and forgetfulness of grief.
One by one they climbed down and followed Legolas. For a moment Frodo stood near the brink and let the water flow over his tired feet. It was cold, but its touch was clean. And as he went on, it mounted to his knees.
Damn,
he
Sean.
felt that the stain of travel and all weariness was washed from his limbs. When all the company had crossed, they sat and rested and ate a little food. And Legolas told them tales of Lothlorien that the elves of Mirkwood still kept in their hearts, of sunlight and starlight upon the meadows by the great river before the world was grey. At length a silence fell, and they heard the music of the waterfall running sweetly in the shadows. Almost Frodo fancied that he could hear a voice singing, mingled with the sound of water.
Do you hear the voice of Nimrodel?
Asked Legolas.
I will sing you a song of the maiden Nimrodel, who bore the same name as the stream beside which she lived long ago. It is a fair song in our woodland tongue, but this is how it runs in the Westron speech, as some in Rivendell now sing it.
In a soft voice, hardly to be heard amid the rustle of the leaves above them, he began, "And as the maid there was of old, a shining star by day. Her mantle white was hemmed with gold, her shoes of silver grey. A star was bound upon her brows, a light was on her hair, as sun upon the golden boughs in Lorien the fair. Her hair was long, her limbs were white, as fair she was and free, and in the wind she went as light as leaf on linden tree.
Beside the falls of Nimrodel, by water clean and cool, her voice was falling, silver fell into the shining pool, where now she wanders none can tell, in sunlight or in shade, for lost of yore was Nimrodel, and in the mountain strayed. The elven ship in haven grey, beneath the mountain lee, awaited her for many a day, beside the roaring sea. A wind by night in northern lands arose, and loud it cried, and drove the ship from elven strands across the streaming tide. When dawn came dim, the land was lost, the mountains sinking
Time is
grey,
at 12.
beyond the heaving waves that tossed their plumes of blind.
And I get to 300k, halfway there.
Amroth beheld a fading shore,
And then,
beyond
gonna pass the fuck
swell,
out.
and cursed the faithless ship that bore him far from Nimrodel. Of old he was an elven king, a lord of tree and glen, when golden there were boughs in spring in fair Lothlorien. From helm to sea they saw it leap, as arrows from the string, and dive into the water deep as mew upon the wing. The wind was in his flowing hair, the foam about him shone, afar they saw him strong and fair, go riding like a swan. But from the west has come no word, and on the hither shore no tidings elven.
The only thing that sucks about these old books, bro, is like the songs that Jarito can put in them. Can't stand them.
The voice of Legolas faltered, and the song ceased. I cannot sing any more, he said. That is but a part, for I have forgotten much.
Thank God.
It is long and sad, for it tells how sorrow came upon Lothlorien, Lorien of the Blossom, when the dwarves awakened evil from the mountains.
The dwarves did not make the evil,
said Gimli. I said not so. Yet evil came, answered Legolas sadly. Then many of the elves of Nimrodel's kindred left their dwellings and departed, and she was lost far in the south, in the passes of the White Mountains. And she came not to the ship where Amroth, her lover, waited for her. But in the spring, when the wind is in the new leaves, the echo of her voice may still be heard by the falls that bear her name. And when the wind is in the south, the voice of Amroth comes up from the sea, for Nimrodel flows into the Silverlode, that elves call Celebrant, and Celebrant into Anduin the Great, and Anduin flows into the Bay of Belfalas, whence the elves of Lorien set sail. But neither Nimrodel nor Amroth ever came back. It is told that she had a house built in the branches of a tree that grew near the falls, for that was the custom of the elves of Lorien, to dwell in the trees, and maybe it's so still. Therefore they were called the Galadriel.
Bro, Sean, trust me, man, I fucking wish. I tried sneaking some anime before, bro, and I almost got my channel taken down for it.
Build strong places of stone before the shadow came.
And even in these latter days, dwelling in the trees might be thought safer than sitting on the ground,
said Gimli. He looked across the stream to the road that led back to Dimril Dale, and then up to the roof of Dark Boughs above. Your words bring good counsel, Gimli, said Aragorn. We cannot build a house, but tonight we will do as the Galadrim and seek refuge in the treetops if we can. We have sat here beside the road already longer than was wise. The company now turned aside from the path and went into the shadow of the deeper woods.
I fucking wish,
westward along
man.
the mountain stream away from Silverlode.
In the perfect
Not
world,
far
we
from the
could.
falls of Nimrodel, they found a cluster of trees, some of which overhung the stream. Their great tusks were of mighty girth. Their height could not be guessed. I will climb up, said Legolas. I'm at home among the trees, by root or bough, though these trees are of a kind strange to me, save as a name in song. Melarn they are called, and are those that bear the yellow blossom, but I have never climbed one. I will see now what is their shape and way of growth. Whatever it may be, said Pippin, they will be marvellous trees indeed if they can offer any rest at night. Except to birds, I cannot sleep on a perch.
That actually
Then
sounds
make a
like
hole in the
Pippin.
ground,
Crazy.
said Legolas. If that is more after the fashion of your kind.
From like the
But
movies.
you must dig swift and deep if you wish to hide from orcs. He sprang lightly up from the ground and caught a branch that grew from the trunk high above his head. But even as he swung there for a moment, a voice spoke suddenly from the tree shadows above him.
Shadow!
It said in commanding tone, and Legolas dropped back to earth in surprise and fear. He shrank against the bole of the tree. Stand still, he whispered to the others. Do not move or speak. There was a sound of soft laughter over their heads, and then another clear voice spoke in an elven tongue. Frodo could understand little of what was said, for the speech that the Sylvan folk east of the mountains used among themselves was unlike that of the west. Legolas looked up and answered in the same language.
Who are they? And what do they say?
Asked Merry.
They're elves,
said Sam.
Can't you hear their voices?
Yes, they are elves, said Legolas. And they say that you breathe so loud that they could shoot you in the dark. Sam hastily put his hand over his mouth. But they say also that you need have no fear. They have been aware of us for a long while. They heard my voice across the Nimrodel, and knew that I was one of their northern kindred, and therefore they did not hinder our crossing. And afterwards, they heard my song. Now they bid me climb up with Frodo, for they seem to have had some tidings of him and of our journey. The others they asked to wait a little, and to keep watch at the foot of the tree, until they have decided what is to be done. Out of the shadows a ladder was let down. It was made of rope, silver grey, and glimmering in the dark. And though it looked slender, it proved strong enough to bear many men.
Oh, sure.
Legolas ran lightly up, and Frodo followed softly. Behind came Sam, trying not to breathe loudly. The branches of the malon tree grew out nearly straight from the trunk, and then swept upward. But near the top of the main stem divided into a crown of many bows, and among these they found that there had been built a wooden platform, or flet, as such things were called in those days. The elves called it a talon. It was reached by a round hole in the center through which the ladder passed. When Frodo came at last up onto the flet, he found Legolas seated with 3 other elves. They were clad in shadowy grey, and could not be seen among the tree stems unless they moved suddenly. They looked up, and one of them uncovered a small lamp.
We're almost breaking even
slender silver beam.
already off of
He held
my
it up, looking at Frodo's face.
my bows and stuff. We're almost breaking even already.
And spoke words.
400, 311.
Frodo spoke haltingly in return. Welcome.
Let's say.
The elf then said again in the common language, speaking
subtract.
slowly, we seldom use any tongue.
400,000.
For we dwell now in the heart of the forest, and do not willingly have dealings with any other folk. Even our kindred in the north are sundered from us. But there are some of us who will go abroad for the gathering of news, the watching of our enemies, and they speak the languages of other lands.
God damn it.
I am one. Haldir is my name. My brothers, Rumil and Orofin, speak little of your tongue. But we have heard rumors of your coming, for the messengers of Elrond passed by Lorien on their way home up the Dimril stair.
65k.
We had not heard of hobbits, of...
Alright, yo, I'm heading to bed, Shawnee boy. Appreciate you, brother. 65k away from fucking breaking even on this so far, which isn't bad at all, honestly. I would cut all of these logs, so it's just essentially free bank, you know? We should have a decent amount after. Let's see. We should have, like, what? 4.5 mil. A bunch of XP and everything. Nice. That's pretty fire. Pretty fire. Actually, what am I doing? I'm just going to be doing this. Right, log in next. Might as well keep them noted. Alright, Sean, you have a good one, bro. Catch you on the flip. Anyone else in chat? God bless.